Hey guys, Sarah here and welcome back to my channel, Sourdough with Sarah Jean. In today's video, I thought it would be fun to take you guys around as I do some summer homemaking in my kitchen. We are going to make bagels, English muffins, garlic scape pesto, and all sorts of fun stuff. So come along with me and let's start the morning. This is an unusual morning because I only have one child with me right now. My husband worked a 24-hour shift this day and my girls slept at my mom's house. So I only had my little guy and it was a nice relaxing morning with just him and I. We went outside to let the chickens out. He's somewhere playing in the yard at this time, but oh, there he is. And he loves to help with the chickens and say hello. And we let our dogs out and just give the chickens their food and water before we go inside to make breakfast. My chickens don't normally lay eggs first thing in the morning, but this day I think I got 1 or 2 eggs. Then for breakfast, I just kept it easy. I made some over medium eggs from our chickens and had some sourdough and some fruit on the side. I think that sometimes we can overthink breakfast. Don't get me wrong. I love an intricate, yummy breakfast of pancakes and bacon and everything. But when I'm home by myself, I like to just keep things easy and simple. My husband is usually the breakfast guy. So when he's home, not working his 24-hour shifts, he makes breakfast, which is great and so helpful. And he makes really yummy breakfasts like pancakes and bacon and eggs and everything. So just kept it simple today for me and my little guy before the girls got home. And we enjoyed a nice quiet breakfast together. Something I've been trying to remember to do every single morning, and if I don't remember in the morning, I try to remember every single day, is to take my adrenal cocktail. So I think that this is really important, especially while I'm pregnant, to just keep my adrenals in the right ratios and just keep myself awake without resorting to coffee right away first thing in the morning. So what I do is I just mix up some orange juice, or I'll do orange juice and coconut water. I put in my trace minerals, some bee pollen, some vitamin C powder, and then I also take my beef liver pills, which I can link my beef liver pills and the vitamin C powder that I take in the description box. I also love the collagen and bone broth powder and a couple of other things from Perfect Supplements. So if you're looking for a new brand to try, definitely use my code. And if you buy more than 3 or more, you get a larger discount. So definitely check that out. Next up, I'm just folding some laundry. I have been trying to keep on top of this as well. I'm not usually the best laundry gal. I will say my husband is usually very helpful with the laundry, and he will like wash and dry, and then we're not really good at folding it, so it sits on the bed and then we just like put it back in the basket. But I have been trying to keep on track of at least one load a day and just folding it and getting it over with, and it has made things much easier. And even when I'm outside with the kids, I'll just bring the laundry outside and fold it outside just to kind of keep on top of it, especially with our growing family. Laundry adds up very quickly. Next, I am in the kitchen and I am making up some sourdough bagels, which are my favorite things to make. If you are new to sourdough, or if you just are used to making sourdough loaves and you've never made sourdough bagels, they are much easier than they look. So the night before this, I made the dough and then I let it ferment overnight. So I added a half a cup of starter, has to be active starter. I also did a cup of water, 4 cups of flour, and I used my milled wheat flour. So sometimes I have to add a little bit more water or less flour to get the right texture because it's freshly milled flour, so it's a little different than all-purpose. And then I added 2 teaspoons of salt and 2 tablespoons of honey or maple syrup. So then I let that ferment overnight, and then brings us to this morning where I'm just shaping the bagels. So I divide them up into about 8 different parts, and sometimes I even double the recipe and I will freeze the bagels. They freeze very well. Or I'll just double the batch and give them to friends and family because, like I said, you can make them so many different ways. You can do jalapeno cheddar, cinnamon raisin, blueberry, everything, sesame, plain. The options are endless with sourdough bagels, and they do last a couple of days in a Ziploc bag. So what I do is I just shape them into a ball and I kind of roll them out on the counter, and then I make a hole in the middle and stretch them out, and then I leave them on the counter for a couple of hours to puff up and rise, maybe 2 to 4 hours, let them rise a little bit longer. I had also prepared some English muffin dough. I wanted to get a couple things made for the week, so this English muffin dough is so easy as well. I did 2 to 2.5 cups of flour. Like I said, I was using my freshly milled flour, which is much different than all-purpose. So if you're using all-purpose flour, you could just go with the 2.5 cups of flour. If you're using whole wheat or freshly milled flour, I would just do 2 cups and then give or take depending on the texture. And then I add 1 cup of water or milk, a half a cup of starter, preferably active starter, and I let that ferment overnight. And then that brings me to this morning where I added 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then I mix that all together, and I get my cast iron skillets really, really hot. I added some coconut oil, or you could add butter, lard, tallow, whatever oil you have. And then I just make little balls and drop them right in there, and then they flatten out as they cook. And I wait about, I would say, 5 minutes before flipping them over. You want to make sure they're browned on the first side before you go ahead and flip them over to the next side. And these are something so simple, and another thing that freezes very nicely. I am very pregnant at this state, so my plan is to make a bunch of batches of English muffins to have in the freezer. And it's something so simple that you could throw together and easily take out of the freezer and have biscuits and gravy or sandwiches, or just have it on the side with some eggs and not have to worry about making them. We really enjoy these English muffins with a little bit of honey. And then later on in the day, I made strawberry rhubarb jam, and we put some strawberry rhubarb jam on the English muffins, and it was so good. You could just, like I said, add a little butter, a little honey, and these whole wheat English muffins were really tasty. So it's strawberry season around here, and we have been strawberry picking like once every week and a half or so, between going to a local farm, and also a great friend has invited us over to pick strawberries at their house. And so we had an abundance of strawberries that I thought it would be fun to try a new recipe and can it as well. I am not a big canner. This is probably my 5th time canning. I'm not a professional. This is also my second or third time making jam. So I did mess up when I was almost done with this recipe with the pectin situation. I got a Pomoa's pectin, which I can link in the description box. So this pectin makes it so that you don't have to add sugar or much sugar. We actually used honey instead of sugar in this recipe. And I added way too much calcium water without reading the directions. My girls were driving me crazy at the time, and they were arguing, and I wasn't paying attention fully to the recipe. And I dropped in way too much calcium water. But the good thing is jam is very forgiving, and I just boiled off a lot of the water and the jam came out amazing. So this was a strawberry rhubarb jam, and we added fresh orange juice. So what I did was I used my Ball Book of Canning and Preserving book. Such a great book, especially for beginner canners, and has great information in it. I'll link that for you guys. And what we did was we did 4.5 cups of fresh rhubarb, 1/2 cup of orange juice, and then I let that boil in the pot for about 5 minutes, until the rhubarb is tender. We washed the strawberries, removed and discarded the stems, and we went ahead and mashed the strawberries up. And my girls really wanted to help me with this, so normally I will let them help in the kitchen. Sometimes it's very hard for us moms to stop what we're doing and enjoy our littles and let them help, but it's so rewarding to them. Kids really do love to help. I know especially my girls, when they see me in the kitchen doing something like baking or cooking, a lot of the times they want to be a helping hand, and sometimes it's hard for me to say yes, but most times I do say yes, and I slow down and stop and think, they're learning, and this is a teaching moment, and gives us time to make memories together. So we went ahead and did the strawberries together, and then I added 2 cups of honey. So I altered the recipe a little bit. The recipe called for 5 cups of sugar. I did not want to do that much sugar, so I went ahead and did 2 cups of honey. And I added that, and then I went ahead and did the pectin, which on the pectin box, it tells you exactly how much to do and how much calcium water and how much pectin to add. And then I just canned those for 10 minutes. So you process them for 10 minutes and then let the jars stand for 5 minutes. And then I stored them in my pantry in the basement. I would love to learn to do more canning this year. I don't know if that will be possible with me having a newborn soon, but it's something that I try to teach myself something new every single year. And last year I learned how to can. I don't have a pressure canner. I just know how to water bath can so far. And I would love to eventually get a canner or an electric canner and teach myself how to can more things. I'm not sure if that will happen this year or next year. And that's just a lesson to be learned, that you may not be able to take everything on in your homesteading journey when you want to. That's something that I've had to remind myself, that it's not all about self-sufficiency. It's about community sufficiency and trying to work together with your community and not taking everything on yourself, because our ancestors did not do everything themselves. They had a big community of help. And when they couldn't grow something or when they couldn't raise an animal, they looked to their neighbors or friends or family to come in and help them, and they worked together to trade or barter. And I think that's really important to remember, and that this isn't a race. Homesteading's not a race. So I have to, like I said, remind myself that pretty often, because I want to learn to do all the things, and sometimes that's not the season for me and may not be the season for you. I'm gonna have a baby, and I know that I have a ton of tomato plants outside right now. I think I have like 40, and it's going to be very hard for me to can all of the tomatoes when the time comes. So I'm thinking I might have to freeze a lot of the tomatoes and go back to them over the fall or the winter and can them, as needed. Next, I am making a garlic scape pesto. If you're not familiar with garlic scapes, ultimately I grew a ton of garlic. It was my first year growing garlic. And in order to send the energy into the bulb of the plant, you want to cut off the garlic scapes, because if not, they will produce flowers. And the plant will spend a lot of time focusing on making the plant flower instead of putting that energy into the bulbs. So you clip them off, and instead of wasting them, they have a wonderful garlic flavor. So you can use them fresh. You can make garlic scape butter. My favorite thing to do with them is to make pesto. So for my recipe, I did a double recipe here. So I did the garlic scapes. I think I did 2 cups of cut up garlic scapes. And then I also did a cup of walnuts, because pine nuts are ridiculously expensive right now. I added 2 cups of Parmesan cheese and 2 cups of fresh basil. And then I also added 2 cups of olive oil. And then you add salt to taste. And then I just mix that up in my food processor and makes a yummy, yummy pesto that also freezes very easily. So I made one for the freezer and one for us to use fresh this week. And we made a yummy tortellini and put this on the tortellini, and it was really, really good. Now that the bagels have been sitting for a couple of hours, it's time to get them ready to cook. So I bring a pot of water to a boil, and I add in 1 tablespoon of baking soda and 1 tablespoon of sugar. And then I go ahead and put the bagels into this water. for about 1 minute on each side. And the reasoning for this is so that you get a crusty outside, but the inside of the bagel will cook and be soft. And I never knew that before I started making bagels. So interesting. And so you definitely do not want to skip this step, or they will not cook correctly. So like I said, that is just something that takes a few minutes, and then you can go ahead and dip them in whatever topping that you desire. So if you want to do like cinnamon sugar, everything bagel seasoning, sesame seasoning, or if you wanted to do cheese on top, like shredded cheese, that's one of our favorites to add, like an Asiago topping on top. And it's really easy. You just flip the bagel over while it's still a little wet. You want it to cool down for a couple of seconds and then put it in right now I'm using everything but the bagel seasoning. And I just move it all around to coat the top before I put it in the oven to bake. And then these bagels cook in a 425 degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how brown you would like them. And they are so tasty. As you can tell, this was a very busy day in the kitchen. I like to do a prep day at least once a week and do a whole bunch of stuff in the kitchen all at once so that I can kind of take care of all the dishes, prep a bunch of food, get some things ready for the week. So right now I'm just making some hard-boiled eggs in my Instant Pot, which I have found is the easiest way to make hard-boiled eggs with fresh farm eggs. All I do is I put them on my Instant Pot for 3 minutes, and then I let them naturally release for 3 minutes, and then I put them in an ice bath so that they stop the cooking process. And this is the easiest way for me to make eggs. It makes about 14 to 15 at a time. And then we ended our afternoon in the garden. We just went ahead and looked for strawberries and any pests that might have been attacking the garden, which this is funny. I recorded this video a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And I should include a picture of what my garden looks like now because it has completely taken off since I took this video just a couple of weeks ago, which is such a beautiful thing to see, all the hard work that we've been putting into this garden. Even though I am very pregnant, I am thankful for my family's help. They have been helping me weed and mulch and trellis, and it's just it's a family affair for sure. And it's so funny how much work goes into growing strawberries, and we don't have that much room for strawberries, and not sure if I will continue to try to grow them next year. We will see, but it is fun to go and get a couple strawberries every day if the slugs or the critters haven't gotten to them first. I hope that you guys enjoyed this summer homemaking video with me, and I do enjoy taking you guys along, and I know that I like to see what other homemakers are doing in the kitchen throughout the seasons. And summer is such a special time to be a homemaker. You have fresh ingredients, and it is just so fun to utilize the fresh produce and spend that time with your family. Even though summertime can be very busy for people, just taking the moments to slow down and really embrace and enjoy the time together in this beautiful weather and this beautiful season. I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I will see you next week.